Hi, I'm Bill Jones. I'm on the board of directors of the Karst Waters Institute, and I'm proud to welcome you to our, I think it's maybe our 30th annual award dinner presentation. Since we're doing it remotely, I guess you're on your own for dinner. But I think our awardee this year has a somewhat unusual background, and I want you to think about one thing. If you're a mountain climber and you want to climb the tallest mountain in the world, the highest mountain in the world, you go to Everest, and you know that it's 29,000 feet and some high, and you know it's probably going to be staying the longest, highest mountain in the world for a good while in any event. Now, if you're a cave explorer, a lot of times people equate cave exploring to mountain climbing, but I think psychologically there are two big differences. One is that you never really know what the longest or deepest cave is, or at least you might know it for today, but it's probably going to change very quickly as people do more exploration. And as an explorer, you're never certain you've seen the entire cave. You don't really know. You think, well, maybe I've gotten to the bottom of this pit. And then a year later, another team comes in and discovers an extension. So it's a constantly moving target. And our awardee this year has sort of made it, I guess it started off as a hobby back almost 50 years ago, but he was working on a long cave in West Virginia, Friar's Hole, and at that time there was competition between another caving group that was surveying an Oregon cave, another 35-mile or so cave in West Virginia. And for a while they were kind of neck and neck. It was a little bit of a competition. And finally, Friar's Hole pulled out ahead. But I first met Bob Gulden, our awardee, on a trip into Friar's Hole, I think in 1976. And it happened to be a connection. We connected Snedeker's with Friar's Hole through an entrance with the unlikely name of Rubber Chicken. But that certainly brought the Friar's Hole system for a number of years. It was the longest cave in West Virginia. And it just so happened last weekend, Dave Salke, who was recording this for us, was on a trip into what's now called the Great Savannah Cave System in West Virginia. And they pushed it over 50 miles. So all of a sudden, just a couple days ago, Friar's Hole became the second longest cave in West Virginia. And I wouldn't be surprised eventually if a couple of the Germany Valley caves boot all that. So at any rate, it's a constantly changing target. And Bob will explain to you how he got into it. I think the technology, the evolving storage media and computers is interesting. And at this point, I'm just going to turn it over to Bob.
Bob, on behalf of the Karst Waters Institute, I'd like to present you with this award in recognition of outstanding contributions to karst science. Congratulations, it's well deserved, and being from Virginia, we just don't have those long caves like they do in West Virginia. So,
I'm happy for West Virginia.
Yeah, congratulations, Bob.
Since I'm still a director.
Excellent.
My first caving trip was to Karlstadt Caverns back in 1957. And from there, my father was in the military at the time. And then we moved to Okinawa, where I did my first wild caving on Okinawa, Japan. Then we moved back to Maryland, and my parents took me to the Ray and Skyline Caverns and stuff. And then in 1970, I got married, and my wife spent a lot of time in the Baltimore City Library, and I found the book, The Caves of Maryland. So I did a couple of caves in Maryland. And then I remembered reading a cave book that said there was cave clubs in different states. So we were able to get in contact with the Baltimore Grotto, which I joined back in 1971. And from there, mapping with Medville and stuff in West Virginia. I'm doing a lot of stuff in West Virginia, working in the Panhandle of West Virginia, where eventually I was able to compile the book on the caves of the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia, which was WVAS Bulletin number 8. And then in '76, we were doing work with Medville again, and we went to Granddaddy Sinks near Gordon Boffice's property, and were able to dig open a entrance, found a small rubber chicken toy with a squeaker in it in the fill, and we were able to open up the rubber chicken entrance. It wasn't until after that that we connected up some of the other caves in the area through rubber chicken, and I wanted to know how this cave fit with this couple of miles of cave with the other caves in the world. So I talked to Will White, who was the chairman of the NSS Geo Squared section, and he told me that I could do the list from his old list. So I found a book on the great caves of the world and built up my list from that. And from then on, I kept on getting, at the time, people had to write me letters at the time and postcards that give me length updates. At the time, I was working at Goddard Space Flight Center, and I was keeping the list on punch cards. So I had a paper tape program that could convert 2 punch cards into 132 characters, which I could put on the printer. And then I eventually moved it on to mag disc, which was there for a while. And then when I moved jobs to the Department of Defense at Fort Meade, I was actually keeping the list on a Cray computer for a while. And then we got our own personal computers at work. And they had a database program, so I converted everything over to that and kept that up for a number of years. And then we moved to a new building, got new computers, and it had an Excel spreadsheet. So I moved everything over to an Excel spreadsheet, which I did for over 20 years on that. At work, I did drawings of all the computer rooms and everything. So I had a AutoCAD program. So I started doing my cave maps on AutoCAD at the time. So right now, so I started mapping other caves, started mapping Bowden, which we got 1.5 miles of virgin passage. So we went from 4 miles to over 6 miles in Bowden Cave. Mapped some other large caves in West Virginia. And so eventually when I retired, I was also keeping the list up to date on my home computer. My first computer was an Apple II Plus, keeping the list on there. And then when I got my own PC, I kept, Excel on there and keeping the lists on that one. So currently the lists are still on Excel. Everybody now sends me updates via email. I still get, and then on Facebook, I also get some updates on Facebook. So I'm happy, keeping the list up. I've been doing it for, since 1976. I've been keeping the list. And like I said, today I got an update for the Great Savannah System, and I also got some updates for Spain in the email today. So I hope to shortly be updating those on the list, and it's after I get a number of updates do I put out an update online to say, I updated these certain lists. So Medville sends me a lot of updates on piping caves out west. Also on the lava tubes out in Hawaii. So I keep a number of lists, I said, at caverbob.com. All the lists are there if you want to go, look at them. And I thank you. Okay, one of my projects with CRF was the remapping of Great Onyx Cave at Mammoth Cave National Park. It's basically the largest cave not connected to Mammoth. but we do think there is a connection, a water connection, which hasn't been completely followed yet. So, after a fun week at work, it's time to go caving. So where we stay is the CRF Hamilton Valley facility for CRF. So each one of these rooms has 2 bunk beds, so 4 people can sleep in a room, and there's a bunch of them in the main building. So this is one of the bunk beds. Then outside's a little area where you can get your stuff cleaned and put on hold. Then they have a survey course to check your instruments. And here's a map of the whole system and the different quads. So the Mammoth Great Onyx quad is up here at the top. So these are the name of the people who are responsible for that quad. So there's my quad there. And on your way from Hamilton Valley to Great Onyx, you pass Floyd Collins' grave. As you drive back on the road, at one time this was the last surviving holdout until the 60s that was in the middle of Mammoth Cave at its old operation. So there used to be a hotel there, the Great Onyx Hotel. Okay, this is a road down to the parking lot. So this is the entrance building to the cave. Alright, let's get there. Here's Mammoth Cave itself here. Here's Great Onyx Cave up here. 1922 map. Alright, from the hotel they had a walkway going down to the cave. So here we are back at the entrance. This is Gordon Rickheimer, one-time NSS president. Here, my son over here, and my son sitting back looking out the entrance. So here's a story about Great Onyx Cave, how it was found and everything, and some of the formations. So this is the original entrance here, and this is the way it looks nowadays. And this is some of the ticket stubs that were found in the cave, because they're all over the place in the cave. People, to get back to the entrance, you got to unlock this gate. Well, the first time I went to unlock the gate, I put my hand in there, and all of a sudden I have about 15 ticks jump on me at the time. So every time after that, I always took a stick and wiggle it around to get all the ticks off there first. So there, this is right off the main road, and it's about 2-mile ride back on this dirt road. Once in a while, people like to park here and use this road as a place to do a run. So they're really surprised when we come barreling down the road in our cars. All right, some of the wildlife in the cave. You got a bunch of salamanders, a couple of bats, lots of crickets, and this one here is molting. So here is my map of the cave, 4.1 miles, total vertical is 214 feet. So here's the entrances up here at the top. So here's the entrance series map. The original entrance was over here. Now here's the side profile. You come down the stairs, which was blasted because the original entrance wouldn't have worked as a commercial entrance. So here we got in the entrance building. Here's the stairs going down, looking down to the lower door. Okay, so looking up there. Here at the first step, there's all these salamanders at the bottom of the step. So then you come into the cave proper. You got all this fancy railings that the National Park put in. So this area was called the Colonnade. So this was the first tourist spot. So this is still a colonnade. This wall right here, they had another gate. This was the end of the Lucy Cox short tour. So you only went in the cave a couple hundred feet, and that was the first tour that you paid for. But then you could buy another ticket for the continuing tour. So this is the way I surveyed the cave, sitting on my chair and little table with everything. Took my helmet off to do my sketching. So this side passage up here is this passage here where Gordon and Dusty are sitting in. This goes back to a 90-foot pit, and the stream in it resurges on the river out there. But there's more than one stream in the cave. So this gets you an idea of what Edwards Avenue looks like. So there I am sketching my first trip without a table. So this is called the billboard, but there was no signatures on it. So this was a beetle experiment that they had going on in the cave at the time. So again, I'm sketching, sitting down. Like I said, big passage going on down. A formation that's slowly getting worn away from the drips. So there's Dusty having a lunch and surveying off a little small crawlway off to the side. So I did the sketch. I always had somebody else keep the notes. So this is where the guys are going into that crawlway off to the side. And like I said, you got the second formation room. You've got an upper passage, an upper way, and a lower way. And like I said, the second formation room. There's the lower path, and then up here was the upper path. This is the upper path. This is called the Hanging Gardens. Hanging Gardens, and this was called the Butter Churn. Some of the formations up there at the top looking out. Most of the stuff is, a lot of stuff has broken off over the years. So on down Edwards Avenue. Okay, there's a side passage that comes in up here, which we'll do later. So we're continuing on down this way. So we just came through here. This is where that upper passage comes in up here. So on down, on down. Some little gypsum flower that was underneath a little ledge. And then I found this in the cave. I just moved the rock and there it was. We're still trying to figure out what it is. It's a little, we're calling it a pinch pat. It's only 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. And it's hollow inside. There's no wax or anything if it was a candle holder. So we don't know what this little thing is. So on down the passage. Down the passage there's a corner that has all this big trash heap. Old cigarette package. More ticket stubs. Kind of garbage. Okay, this was the end of the first tour, ended at these benches. And from there they can make a call out to get picked up. But from here, you could pay to have the longer tour down this way, or the Lucy Cox tour this way. So that's the start of the flower tour of Edwards Avenue. So along the avenue is this formation that has a gypsum crust around it, and then on the floor is the gypsum crust that fell off. So near the end of the Edwards Avenue is these rimstone dams. So here you can see all the rimstone dams at the end of the passage there. So we just went down this way. Rimstone dams are here. All right, so at the bench here, you went down this way. Now we're going down this passage here. So a little handrail. That's an old handrail. So we're going down that way. So Cox Avenue. Cox Avenue extends for another 2,200 feet this way. So Cox Avenue, another 2,200 feet. We're going to be going up this way. So the ceiling is just gypsum crust the whole way. And here you get some pictures of the gypsum crust. Like I said, it's really white back there. So continue on down that passage. Here you see some of the gypsum blisters and everything. Chest head height. Some of the gypsum stuff. Alright, then farther along you find somebody built like a fireplace. Now over in the corner, we thought there was a lead over there, and I sent Dusty over there and found out why you don't see any signatures on the walls or anything is they had people sign rocks. So there's 3 places in the cave that had these piles of signature rocks. So when my son went over there, he picked up the biggest piece, and this was the first party through this section of the cave, and they signed it and everything else, and the guide and everything else. But then you flip it over, you have Andy Collins' signature, which is Floyd Collins' brother. So he was in on working in this part of the section of the cave. So then it gets a little low. Okay, you can see a handrail going up here. I'm just looking back on a little alcove. So that's going up the other way and then coming out at that upper passage that I pointed out before. There's still lots of gypsum stuff. So this is one of the survey groups. That's Gordon Moffat, Dusty, myself. I can't remember their names. All CRF people. So this was the original entrance to the cave. And there I am on one of my first trips, doing my sketching. I always did clipboard sketching. There's Gordon Brickheimer surveying. More trash in the cave. Okay, this is one of my last survey trips. I was doing cross sections and profiles. This is the Long. That was her first time surveying. She's been on plenty of trips, helping in the kitchen and everything. And then they sucked this old guy on my survey crew. So the old guy happened to be Roger Brucker. So at the time he was just finishing up his book and she was reviewing it for him. So they talked about that the whole way through the cave. You got to have so many people on a survey too. But nobody had to do anything since I was doing profiles. So this is the field station. This is the map room over here and computer room. The bathroom is one here and one on this side. Crummy picture, Dusty sitting on the thing. Kitchen over here. So this is the map room. Dave West and Karen Willems. And there's Dusty reading. You see, what's her name? She lives on a trailer park right next to it. Pat Cambyses. That's Pat Cambyses cooking dinner. So most of the photos were by Dusty and I did the show. Bing! And that's it. All right, thank you.